few episodes back, we had Kelsey from Honeybee Weddings on, and now she's back. Kelsey is an elopement photographer and business coach. And since our values are so aligned, we have an endless amount of topics that we want to cover. Today, we're talking about how you can create a schedule that is designed to fit your life and personality that also help you to get things done. You're listening to Sustainable Photography, a podcast all about business tips, inspiration, and confidence building. I'm Ingvild Kolnes, the host of this podcast, and after over a decade as a photographer, I now help talented photographers run sustainable businesses. And for full transparency, you should know that I'm a mentor with paid offers, and I will probably mention some of those in this episode. Hi, Kelsey. Welcome back to the podcast.
Oh my gosh, girl. So happy to be back. Thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to chatting. And we finally scheduled it within a reasonable time.
I know. It wasn't like last time.
Only my fault last time. I know. Nothing to do with you.
Yeah, but there's always, something that pops up and then you can't make it and then you have to reschedule and there's something. But this time we just made it happen on the first try, which is excellent.
I think so too. I was anyway, so excited to chat with you again because it's always just so fun to chat with like-minded little humans, and you are one of them. I think, what you're doing with the podcast is just beautiful. So,
oh, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, anytime, literally anytime, because when we talked about after last time, we have to do this again. And then we got to talking on Instagram and I was going to let you know when I had time to record. And then you sent me a list of ideas of I could talk about any of these things. And I was like, I want to talk about all of these things. And I just had to choose one. So I went with power schedules. Power schedule. What is a power schedule?
Yeah. I mean, I guess before I dive in, tell me why you chose the power schedule. When you're looking at it, was it just what is that? Was I've never heard of that. What made you choose it?
Well, multiple reasons. One of the things is I love planning. I love, having a schedule and routines and all about being more productive so that we don't waste time. And just the phrasing power schedule made it seem like this is something that we need to know more about. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm right there with you in being a creature of habit and just, evolutionary wise, that is really just how the brains are wired, right? We have these neural pathways that are carved out in our brains that really make it easy to set into a schedule. So what is it? So today I'm super excited because we're talking about how to get more done when we work less. And, we all have these crazy lives and schedules that are so different. And that's the beauty of it. Is it the power schedule that I define is a day that you can insert these three things into your day while optimizing the natural rhythms of your brain and maximizing the productivity so we can really take advantage of the time that we do have. So the elements that I want to talk about today are active rest, creative, deep thinking time, and then these, admin tasks. Everybody in their business has these little tasks that, you just got to get done, but they're not the big ticket movers that are really going to move the needle to our business. So I created a power schedule for one of my coaching clients, and she said that within 4 days of implementing that schedule, she was already feeling the magic, right? She was more productive. She got everything done that she wanted to, and she felt rested. And that to me is the win.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something. So I bet this is something that all of us has totally happened to you, and it'll kind of demonstrate the power of rest. Okay. So have you ever been on a walk or about to fall asleep or in the shower and this brilliant idea just kind of smacks you in the face, and it seems to come out of nowhere? It's this aha moment. This is what happens when our brain takes a rest. And to get a little science on you here, what this is the default mode network. I call it the DMN. Acronyms are easier. So it's a network of these interacting brain regions that activates when the mind is at rest. So this is the part that just clicks on, and it's responsible for daydreaming, mind wandering, creativity, the ability to kind of imagine the future. And it's so powerful, especially for, photographers and other creatives. This is the magic. This is what we're getting paid for. And especially as a CEO to your business, these really big ticket things that you need to move the needle, the magic of the power schedule, because it emphasizes active rest. And I'll go into like what other examples, like, hiking, walking, cooking. It stimulates the deep thinking parts of our brain when we're able to step out of the work part of the office and just use that for the quieter parts. And I craft a power schedule that exploits the shit out of your brain's natural outlet. So that's kind of what the power schedule is.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. And I can totally relate. I was just nodding the whole time when you were talking, because it's like, I feel like anytime I go outside for a walk, or I'm in the shower or driving the car, even more so than just being a passenger. And it's like, it's those situations where you can't just like write down your ideas. It's always really annoying. But I can definitely relate to it.
Right. I mean, I'll talk about it a little bit more too, but it's just like, we need to be able to flex that muscle. And the more, if we can do that every day, if we can just actively carve out that time every day, our brains will be more spurred to do that. And then when we set aside the time for that creative thinking time, when we're actually, sitting, we're writing it down, we're like moving the needle, it'll just come that much faster.
Yeah. Because I know that you are all about, resting and stuff. And I can understand that. I can understand how, you should rest to get more done. But it's so counterintuitive that it's almost impossible to believe that that is the way it works. So for me, I know that I work way too much, and I can be told again and again how important it is to rest, but I'm still struggling with it because it just doesn't really make sense.
Right. I mean, the question is like, how can we get rest and like do more with working less? And I mean, the short answer to that is like, we need the active rest time every day. When we give our brains the time to be in this quiet mode, the non-working restful time, we're actually priming ourselves for that creativity. So just like any muscle, or like, this part of the brain, the DMN, the default mode network, like it needs exercise. And the best way to do that is to flex it every day. So when we can set aside time for us, and I know it is counterintuitive because, I think we're all kind of programmed in this society, specifically, I'm in America, specifically America, where it's like, I felt the most valuable when I spent 1 million hours in the office, when I was working my corporate job. Let's get real about how society just totally brainwashes us into thinking that working this 80-hour week or 60-hour week or even 40-hour week, is the ultimate goal. I mean, all of us have seen The Devil Wears Prada, right? Like it's basically glamorizing the stress, and that being overworked is part of the job. Sanity and social life was nowhere in that equation, right? Like life balance was just not a thing. And this is exactly how I thought life had to be, right? I felt so much pressure to perform, and it had me in this chokehold of burnout, this like cycle of just like, you're feeling like you're putting in so many hours, but nothing good is happening. You're just kind of churning your wheels. And it wasn't until I started my own business and created my own schedule that I realized it wasn't my lack of performance. It was my rigorous work schedule that really was holding me back. So one day, and this is kind of like where it all happened for me. So like, one day I was walking in the woods near my house. I could hear the birds. I could see the wind moving through the trees. I could, hear the ground crunching. I'd smell the pines, this like beautiful thing. I didn't have any agenda. I was just like out romping around, like just walking to walk, and all at once, this idea just hits me. I chased the idea, and it was basically like, what if I change my business to attract different couples that are worried about like having the problem that every wedding couple has, that it's like super stressful to plan a wedding. It was that day that I was like, you know what? I could do elopements. That is the same messaging I use to this day, that like years later, I now run this multiple 6-figure elopement photography biz. I mean, that is like really, once we do it every day, it's because our brains are resting in such a way that it primes us to make these bigger moves. So, like, will you edit more photos when you spend, 60 hours a week editing photos? Yes, right? Like the numbers, that quantitative measure of productive is definitely going to be there the more time you put in. Okay, that's a fact. But when we think about what can really move the needle for our business and really like make it sustainable and grow it, it's these big ideas and the ability to focus in, and the CEO part, not the editor part, right? The CEO part that will really change our lives there.
Yeah.
So, I think it's not, like work and rest don't have to be completely separate. They don't have to be two different things. And I think that's, kind of like what you were saying, like you feel the need to like be busy and like get the stuff done. And so much of that is societal.
Mm-hmm.
So much of that, I'd be like, we can be more productive when we incorporate rest, because our brains are magical little unicorns that are like working even when we're not. And work and rest aren't binary, right? Like rest isn't just the absence of work, but it's something that stands alone. And I think that's like, we just kind of need to be talking to ourselves through the societal expectations and like, is it serving us? Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm feeling a few questions pop up. Because one thing is, I can totally relate to that whole like feeling like I need to get more stuff done. But I also know how important all the other things are. So I do prioritize that, and I make sure that I always get input from others and stuff. And I see how much a lot of photographers I know, I work with and have worked with, struggle with the idea of prioritizing the things that isn't like client work. All the day-to-day stuff, because, you're going to get that done anyway. So you need to prioritize marketing and reaching out and networking and doing all these other things.
Right.
But I don't think any of us are good enough at resting and doing completely other things. So just to kind of clarify, when you say active rest, what is that?
Yeah. What active rest is not, right? It's not the like idle hours scrolling on social media until our eyeballs fall out, or taking a quiz to see which Twilight character I am, right? It's more about the beautiful empty hours that stretch out without clients, without colleagues, or, if you're parents out there, children. A really good book that I recommend by Alex Sojung Kim Pang is called Rest. It outlines, a few like really great activities, and I've just, I've put some in here. So some of my favorite, the first one is walking. I've experienced this firsthand with how powerful walking is, and brownie points if you can walk outside in nature. It really allows your mind to wander, and it can lead to super creative insights. Charles Darwin and Virginia Woolf are also really well known. They took, long walks to, as a part of their daily routine. And that's a scientist and an author. They're just, very creative people. Napping is another one. Short naps, especially in the afternoon, they're game changers. They can restore alertness and improve your cognitive function. So Winston Churchill would take 20-minute naps every afternoon. And this was in the peak of war when he was saving his country. If this cat can take time out of his day to take naps during the day, I think we can all manage, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're just so good for rejuvenation. The shorter 20-minute sort of ones. Longer naps are better for problem solving. So, you just kind of craft that a little bit. But really for the power schedule part, the 20-minute naps are much more efficient, and they leave you feeling more awake versus, can kind of sleep if you sleep for too long. Exercise. So physical exercise, this is the ultimate form of rest, in my opinion, and my personal favorite: running, swimming, biking, yoga, pickleball, basketball, whatever gets your sexy ass moving is a great form of rest. So, not only are you physically working out your stress, but you're clearing your mind, you're improving your mood, hello, endorphins, that's our best friend. It's our running partner, just coming along with us. There's these twins, Emily and Amelia Nagoski, who wrote about exercise is really a crucial step in breaking the burnout cycle. Stress ends up activating your fight or flight response. And if you don't find some way to actively deal with that stress, exercising, your body can just stay in that stressed out state. So I don't know if you've ever had this happen, but sometimes like I've got a lot of stuff going on in the business and I just like have so much going on and I just can feel it, like you're just kind of like, your body just kind of like shaking from the inside. It's like, like, let me out,
Yeah.
And that's the best way to really work that out. And my husband knows I get stressed, that the best way for me is exercise. Like when I get high strung, he's like, oh, honey, go for a walk. I'll take the puppy. you gotta go, hon. You gotta go. And burnout can really get in the way of our work. That is one thing that will just lead to really big blocks in creative work. So when you exercise, you're giving your body a way to physically process and release that stress, and that's helpful for more things than one. Hobbies is another one. That's the fourth kind of active rest. So hobbies like gardening, playing a musical instrument, painting, cooking, it's not only restorative, it's just really good for the soul. These activities allow your mind to focus on something enjoyable and creative while also giving your brain a break. You'll find like these really busy, meaningful, powerful CEOs really sink into their hobbies. Marissa Mayer, the former CEO of Yahoo, she has this passion for cooking that isn't just a casual interest, but it's a hobby that she really dives deep into and is just, despite her crazy high profile career, she's dives really deep into cooking. So that's super helpful. The fifth one, meditation, mindfulness. The ultimate Zen, practices like meditation and mindfulness really help to quiet the mind and reduce our stress. I would put, yoga would be a good one in here too. That's kind of like the sweet spot between exercise and meditation and mindfulness. We can use these activities as ways to recharge, get your clarity, and seriously just calm the fuck down. Just like bring that.
Do you have to do all of them, or is it like one is better than none?
So this one is one where like, I don't think, you could create time in the day to do all of these things. That sounds like a chore list. It doesn't sound super fun, right? It sounds overwhelming. I would pick one of these things. Okay. Yeah. And you can definitely, and you can change it out, right? Like sometimes after a tough, pickleball game for me the day after, I just go for a short walk. Sometimes when I'm just really feeling like I just need to kind of like work through some quiet things, I do meditation instead. I would definitely like choose your own adventure. It's like the Oregon Trail. You just can kind of like choose your way. It's not going to lead to death, contrary to the Oregon Trail. But you can just kind of like choose your own adventure there. Yeah, definitely don't feel the need to do all of them. I would spontaneously combust if I had to.
Good. So we're keeping it simple.
Yeah, so simple.
So what if we don't? Like, what if we're unable to do this, or we've never heard of a power schedule and implementing active rest? What can happen?
I think we've all experienced the like burnout and stress and just that like pressure in your chest where you just feel this like kind of overwhelming sense of overwhelm and burnout. That's what happened to me. I remember very acutely, like when I didn't take rest seriously and I just kind of pushed through it. I live in a rural state and our thing is like, get her done. Like you push through, you get her done, you just do it. Like whatever it takes, you put yourself aside and you just do it. It wasn't great. Yeah. And it honestly led, it's terrible. Like it's terrible. It just led to like over drinking, if I'm honest. It led to migraines. It led to just very unhealthy life choices. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't take care of your body, it will get you.
Even if things are going okay now, implementing some of these strategies, that's going to help you to keep going in the long run. So even though you feel like, okay, if I take time out of my workday, yes, maybe I'll get less done right here and now, but in the long run, it's going to give me more time, more energy, more productivity.
Right. Yeah, right. You might not edit as many photos today, right? But when you think about how much, not only like I really do believe in work-life balance and sustainability, hence why you and me are like besties chatting. This is all part of that. Yeah. If we don't kind of cultivate that every day, it really, I don't know, at least for me, everybody is so different, but at least for me, I would not be a 6-figure business. I would still be at this kind of like, churning my wheels. It would just be taking the photos and editing them. Without this sort of time, I never could have brought on my associate team. I never could have grown my business to coaching. I never could have added on video. I never could have done my branding so that I stand out. I mean, it's that really deep thinking stuff that it just wouldn't happen.
Yeah, no, I can totally understand that, and makes so much sense. And I think we just need that reminder that working more isn't the answer.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really not. I mean, I give you permission. Come to the dark side of like some Rex.
Yeah. Thank you. So if I feel like, okay, I hear what you're saying, I need to do more of this, even though I'm pretty good at, walking, and well, that's pretty much it. Now that I look at the list, I'm not good at any of the other things.
Well, no, that's great. I mean, like it's better than nothing, right? Like I'm not going to sit here and be like, girl, you have to do everything or you fail. Like, no.
Okay. So I do walk outside, but other than that, I'm not good at doing any of these things. But what if I want to get better? What if I want to implement some of these things? How can a power schedule look like? And not just for me, because I am sure that every single person listening needs this.
Yeah, right. I mean, and again, like I'm going to go back. Every person is different. So when I craft power schedules for my sweet little coaching clients, like they look wildly different. And, I'll send you the downloadable of like templates that people can like fill in. So like they can create their own, which I think is super fun, and do that. But, as creative entrepreneurs and CEOs, paid for that genius. We're paid for the inspiration. We're paid for the creativity. It's an on-demand product. It's not a leisure, and it's definitely not a hobby, right? So the rest of us, we need the rest more than anybody else, right? And like, to be clear, rest is not something the world just gives us. It's never been this like pretty little present wrapped in a bow, right? It's never something you do to finish everything else. If you want the rest, you got to carve it out. You have to like have a black belt and boundaries and set the time aside. And just resist the urge to be busy. Make time for the rest and take it seriously. In order to do that, you need a system, you need a plan, and I got you. The girl with the plan.
I like systems and I like plans. So this is good.
Yeah, girl. Yeah, we're like talking our love language right here. Systems, plans. It's not the sexiest love language, but it gets stuff done.
It does, yeah.
So the key to start your day, like we need to start your day early enough so you can cash in on the deep thinking and still have time for the active rest. So do you remember the 3 things we need for the power schedule? It was active rest, creative deep thinking, and then, all the other stuff, right? All of our other tasks, our mundane tasks, all that sort of stuff.
All the to-dos. Yeah.
All the to-dos, right? So mornings, let's talk morning first. Mornings are the best time for your creative, deep thinking time. So let's talk circadian rhythms for just a second. So circadian rhythms are the sleep-wake cycle that every human being has on repeat every 24 hours. Scientist Nathaniel Kleitman's study showed that for many people, their attention, memory, and creativity peak in the morning. This is when the brain is most alert and refreshed after a good night's sleep. So sleep is so important here.
I was just wondering, is it the same for everyone or is it most people?
It's most people. I mean, I think some of our sweet little like late night owls will be like, I resist this.
That's me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because I'm like, I don't feel like my brain really works in the morning. I'm all like a night person. That's when I get my good ideas.
Right.
Yeah. So just checking.
Yes.
Just checking.
So no, it's a great question. It's a great question. So for most people, morning really is the like witching hour. Yeah. For our night hour people, your circadian rhythm really is just different. So for you, we would want to be crafting our power schedule so our creative deep thinking will happen at night. The owls will be hooting. The bats will be out and about. All nocturnal animals, including you, will be fucking crushing it in their business, right? Like
Nice.
that's when you're going to be cooking.
I like it.
And that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. And whenever you feel your brain is most refreshed, that's what we're looking for here.
Right.
The deep thinking part of your day, right? The problem solving, the creativity. I use this time for creating new systems in my business. So mapping workflows, building that associate team, editing photos, if that is like a very creative part of the process, creating the email funnels for sales, adding on albums to my business, rethinking my branding, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. This is the artist time, but it's also the CEO time, right? We are artists.
Interesting that they're together. Okay.
Yes. This is the creative time. We don't often think that like the CEO is the artistic creative side, but I would argue it really is, because this is like the creative problem solving that we need to not just sustain, but build.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Our business. So when I make my intentions for the quarter, my goals, this time, this witching hour, whether it be morning for me, night for you, this is when we're getting that done. So for instance, my quarterly goals this time were launching a new website, launching another coaching course, a workflow audit, and launching an associate training guide. These are all the things I got to do to really, and again, like this is the move the needle time. This is like, hey, we're building it. These are our quarterly goals. This is when that's happening. And for me, it's in the morning. Midday. So after 3 to 4 hours of deep thinking time, we're going to be tired, right? Like you bet, like you've just gotten the most important work of the day done in that time. Now it's time for active rest. So taking this rest in the middle of the day is going to help your productivity and creativity. And it's important to recharge those cognitive resources we just drained by doing all this creative work. It will prevent the burnout and it helps to keep you performing at your peak. I think the other thing that, society tells us that we're like doing it wrong is like when we get tired. So, during every section of the day, there will be a time, usually lunch or after lunch, right? We've had our lunch, our sugar levels are changing in our bodies. And that's when we feel this kind of like crash. It's normal. And it's something that we cannot power through. Every body at a certain time will be tired. That's okay. Right? The power schedule is just meant to exploit those times and do things that are kind of low energy work, right? So anyway, so the midday is when we do our rest. So that's, the hiking, the biking, the cooking, the art, the music, that sort of thing. This is the time to restore your attention. When we talk about attention restoration theory, this was researched by Rachel and Stephen Kaplan. Having those restful activities, particularly those that are in nature and low stress, can really help restore those depleted deep thinking resources. So that's kind of the time for that midday. Afternoon. So when we segue into our afternoon, this is usually, again, like we've had some lunch, we are kind of tired, we've been up for a long time. Like this is kind of our crash point. So scientist Roy Baumeister's research on willpower and self-control found that these things have an expiration date throughout the day. It's not just like, physically we are tired. It's also like psychologically, as we go through our day, we're done, man. That willpower is like, it's an expiration date. It's a finite resource. Mm-hmm. So we start high and then we end low. And again, that is not a negative thing. That's not like, oh, I'm so terrible, I have no willpower, I'm lazy. No, girlfriend. That is just psychologically how it is. And we can exploit that, right? Like that's fine. So as we go throughout our day, our willpower is decreasing. We need to do things in the afternoon that don't require much willpower, right? We need easy, low energy tasks. So this is when I process email, I schedule consult calls, I work on social media, I make timelines for my couples, I do their location matchmaking, I make wedding albums, I blog. And, as part of Boss Up, that my group coaching course, like I encourage everyone to come up with a girl bye ritual. What it is for me is like, as business owners who work from home, it can be hella hard to like walk away from your desk. You might be checking emails all the time. You might be processing leads all the time. And I'm like, No. Like we need a solid, like establishing the ritual to get you out of the office and to separate your work from your personal life is so important. So, my girl bye ritual is like, I write down my to-dos for the next day. So I just, transfer everything over, things I didn't get done or things that popped up or, whatever, next day. Shut down the computer. I do my gratitude journal. I write a few things I'm so grateful for that makes me, really gain perspective after what I did during the day, feeling good. And I literally shut the door. I think that is one of the most powerful things that sounds so dumb. You're like, of course you shut the, no, literally shut the door.
And probably shut down the computer as well. Like mine's always on and it's probably not a good thing. Yeah.
Well, it's so easy for you to be like, oh, hey, I forgot something. And you like go into the computer, you do your thing and you're working again. Your brain is in work mode again. So yeah, shut things down. So that's what it can look like. That's what the power schedule can look like.
A new round of the Sustainable Photography Program is going to open up this winter. However, the price will go up this round, so make sure that you apply now to get in at the current rate. Go to ingvildkolnes.com/sustainable to check out the program and to fill in your application. Yeah, and when you say that you customize it differently to each person, is that in terms of which things go in what order, or is it which items you kind of have to fill it with depending on who you are and what kind of things you have to do?
Yeah. So it has a lot to do with the circadian rhythm of your own little body. Like, like you just mentioned, you're like, morning, thank you, next. So we would be talking. So yeah, I'd be talking to you like, hey, when do you feel the most refreshed? And you would tell me.
Yeah, that would be late evening after it's just quiet and nothing's happening. Dark as well, usually. Yeah, okay. Dark, quiet.
Perfect. Okay. And then when do you usually go to sleep?
Around, well, it depends. Sometimes, 12, 1, 2, around there. And
then you sleep until morning?
Until I wake up. Like 9. Okay. 9-ish, 10, 9 usually. Yeah.
Okay. So what I would recommend for you, and especially, as we get a little more rigorous in our exercise, we're going to be more tired. So, what I would do if we're starting at wake up, right? We're starting at the beginning of the day. That's your lowest energy time, if I were to guess, right? Like that's the time.
Yeah.
Being my sweet little night owl, you're just like, no, thanks. Next, right? So this is the time between like 9 and like 11 that I would love to see you do your consult calls, your low energy work. That's low energy work time. Things that like kind of need to get done, but it's just like, we don't need a lot of willpower for that, right? Like we just need to get it done.
Makes sense.
Right. Yeah. And then I would do your active rest after that. So, for you, it could really range from like an 11 to like 2 to even a little later in the day. Like things for you are just going to naturally shift later in the day.
This makes so much sense compared to how I kind of naturally do things as well, because I do like to just get some of that stuff done that I, have hanging over me. And then I do like to take a break because I just have a hard time concentrating. So this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Look, again, come to the dark side. Yeah. When you feel yourself losing concentration, instead, at least for me, like before I figured out this power schedule stuff, like I would feel, I would just like, when I felt unmotivated, I was like, God, Kels, come on, like kick yourself into gear. What's wrong with you? Right. I would power through it. And instead, like, you just don't have to, right? Like we can just exploit our natural, cycles of our body. Yeah. Our natural rhythm. Yes. Like, and again, everybody's doing it. It's not just you. You are not a failure, right? Like everybody is getting tired. Everybody's willpower is decreasing. Everybody's attention is waning. So when you feel that attention waning, that's when we go into our active rest. Yeah. And then the other part is like, do we have a sweet family? Do we have kids that we need to pick up at a certain time? Like, is there a way that we can integrate our active rest into our habit because say the kids need to go to the bus stop. Well, let's walkie to the bus stop and then walkie around the lake, or, like whatever. Right.
Yeah. Because that's when it starts getting complicated. Like when you've got the schedule and you can just plan it out however it makes the most sense, then, it's perfect. You can do it. But then you have, the factor of real life that comes into play. And it's like, how do we add all this in?
Yes. I mean, that's the structure part. That's the plan part. Is like, I really try to take, because, again, like if we could live in a bubble where we could just do whatever the heck we wanted all the time, like, wouldn't it be great? Right. Yeah. But we do have these external forces that, are sometimes outside of our control. Sometimes it's a boundary thing, sometimes we just need to like set boundary, but sometimes, it's littles, it's kids. It's, I have to go take my mom to lunch every Wednesday, whatever it is. So that's the structure piece. And I go very detailed with my sweet people where it's like, what is it that you have to do during the day? What are your non-negotiables? What are the things we don't like to do? Because I want to find, we have to do them. We need to find time. And it's probably in that low energy work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And probably also like actually questioning if the things that you have to do are actually things that you have to do, or if it's just what you think. And then it turns out, because especially when it comes to marketing, there's this so common, like, oh, I have to do this. And it's like, but does it work? Has it ever worked?
Yeah.
No, then you don't have to do it. Stop it. Just don't spend your time on it.
Right. Well, and it's so funny you say that. That's part of Boss Up is the like goal getter thing. So it's like, what is the vision? Right? Like, where do we really want to be in like 5 years? And let's chart it backwards. Like there's a vision and a system. For mine, I call it the summit vision system. We're getting to the top of that summit. We have a vision, but we also have a system. And so we're able to chart what our goals are quarterly, yearly, 5 yearly. And like it'll change, right? Like we're not like iron. You're right. I mean, we're not like castles, but like being able to kind of work that backwards and be like, oh yeah, this is going to move the needle. So then we can really, and like write it down. You do that in your creative time and just be really disciplined. And like, do I really need to be doing this social media thing that's taking me 2 hours a day? Like, is it bringing it, like, what's the ROI on my time?
Yes. This is so important.
Like return on investment on my time. Yeah.
No, I agree. And I do the same actually in my program where we start by figuring out what's the long-term plan and then make sure that you don't do a lot of things that kind of deviate from that unless you've changed your mind. Right. And I think if you don't do that, it's so easy to get off course and then you've spent tons and tons of your time and your resources on something that isn't where you want to be at all.
Right. For sure. Well, I mean, and that's like, I kind of think of running your own business and being your CEO kind of like a restaurant. So like you think of like the owner of the restaurant, the manager of the restaurant. They are not the people who are assembling the pizza. They're not the one putting it on the plate. They're not the one bringing it to the couple. They're the ones who are like this big picture. How do we build this business? And I think it can be really hard for people to kind of like step into that role when it's just them or, a small team of people. And that's a big mindset shift that I think it's beautiful when it can happen, but I think that's like a big takeaway is like, this is probably another podcast episode, right? Of like, how do you step into that CEO and like, what does it really look like?
Yeah, exactly. And that is something that I like to talk about as well with my students is, okay, so you're one person and you are supposed to do all the things. That's fine if you don't want to outsource, if you just want to do everything yourself, but at least take some time to do the things that will make a difference, that you have sat down, look at your numbers, look at your strategies and don't just do the client work. Like you have to be able to step away from that on a regular basis and not just when it starts getting quiet, because then it's not too late.
But kinda.
But it will make you, it will kind of make you struggle. So
yeah, totally. I mean, even when, again, like when you look at how you're spending your time, I'm a big advocate for tracking your time. And I do it in, chunks. So like, here's how much time a week I spent on admin. Here's much time a week I spent on professional development. Here's much time I spent on coaching. So, at the end of the quarter, I just be like, oh, hey, I did spend too much time on admin. Like, this isn't making me, like, this isn't making a difference. This isn't what I love to do, So like, let's automate this shit and get off my plate.
Yeah. And that's another thing, like all those things where you're stuck, like, oh, I can't stop doing this. I can't, like, but it has to get done. You have to be able to invest some time up front so that you can free it up, like, for down the road. And it's the same for everything you're saying about this power schedule, where yes, you have to invest some time now where you'll get less later, but it does mean that you're going to be around for longer and your business is going to do so much better. So it's a really important investment to make.
Yeah. Well, and you will feel more productive also. I mean, I think that's the other thing, right? It's like, if you work that rest in, I mean, again, like, as we chatted about, it does sound counterintuitive, right? It's like, how am I going to feel better when I'm getting, like, air quote, less work done?
Yes.
I promise you will, in more ways than one, because you're exploiting your natural cycles and you're getting that exercise and rest.
It's really interesting because a lot of the things that you've been saying about, things that you're mentioning about the rhythms, and especially since we talked about my schedule and stuff, a couple of months ago, I got this tracking device, like a ring, an Aura ring, and it tracks everything doesn't track everything, but it tracks a lot of things to do with my body. So, and I've been able to tell, and it's kind of like I've made it a game, like, oh, I'm getting good scores when I go out for a walk and when I get enough sleep and stuff. So my physical life has gradually gotten better day by day. And it's really interesting because it's also, after a while, after you've been wearing this ring for a while, it does tell you about your circadian rhythm. Like, oh, so that's the midpoint of my sleep. And it tells me, like, oh, you should be getting ready to go to bed. And it's just really, really interesting because it's really the connection between, your body and your mind and your business. So it's that whole thing of separating business and personal life. It's not a real thing.
Right.
Because it does matter how you're feeling and how you're doing. And if you're ever at that point where you have employees, you have to make sure to treat them right, because if not, it will also affect your business. So not that I'm saying that should be the reason for doing so, but it's just so easy to think that you can separate business and personal life and have like this strict boundary, but it doesn't work like that.
Right. It doesn't. I mean, it's so beautiful, that comparison you just put out there, where you're just like, as I've been tracking and learning about my body, it's been feeling so much better. Like, how is it feeling mentally? Like, how has that, like, have you noticed any shift in your business?
I have, because I have more, I'm not sure if I'm going to call it free time, but I have more like space, like mental space to think about things. So it does make a big difference. And I've been really, really careful about not making any big shifts, because then it's so easy to kind of just lose it. So I've just been doing it very like incrementally, and that's worked really well. So I think overall it's going to make a huge difference. So just wanted to say that there are technical devices that can help you figure some of this stuff out as well. Like,
I love that.
Yeah. Like, it tells me like, oh, now you've been really stressed. It's time to rest. And then you have to like rest. And then you get like a green score. And it's like, yes, you're doing really well. You've restored. Yeah. Yeah. It's fun.
Oh, okay, girl. Yeah. No, so nice. Well, I mean, and again, like, I think so much of our schedule and what we like, when we think we have to be active and creative versus like societal expectations of that, right? I mean, the 8 to 5 workday.
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
do you know what I mean? Like, that just does not work for everybody. And like, I mean,
no, it doesn't.
And just being able to like have your ring to tell you that like, you're not a crazy person. Like, you are not like like bucking the system. Like, this is when you are the most creative. This is when you are the most on point. Like, this is it. Like, isn't that so affirming?
It is, but it also kind of is a good reminder as to kind of everything that I have as like, I don't know, the core of what I do, which is, create a business that works for you.
Yeah.
And just be really careful and not looking at what everyone else is doing and thinking that they have the right way of doing it, because yeah, hopefully they have the right way of doing it for them.
For them.
But there is nothing to say that that should work the same way for you. I don't think there's many people who could do what I do, the way I do things, because I work crazy hours and I don't think I could function, or I know I couldn't function if I had to get up at like 7 a.m. and sit at a desk all day. And we're all so different. It's so important to figure out like what's your best way of doing things. But if we have this kind of framework or foundation that this power schedule is, I do think that could make it so much easier for probably everyone.
Yeah. I mean, even if all we do this week is like find what active rest we want to partake in, do that.
Yes.
If that's the thing that we have time to like, or bandwidth to like take on this week, like that's the biggest thing, no matter where it is in your day, right? Like I gave the framework and the science behind like makes the most sense, but like you'll feel it, right? Like your sweet little body will be like I'm tired, I can't focus anymore.
Yeah. That
is your time to go out and walk, run, bike, swim, read, meditate, yoga, whatever. That's the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Obviously, we've been talking about my potential power schedule and my rhythm, but I am curious to know about yours as well. What is your power schedule?
Oh my gosh. You're going to look at my power schedule and be like, what are you? We are like we're opposite is the thing. Like you're the night owl, like the early bird with the worm. Like I'm just, so I wake up at 5.
No.
Yes.
That's girl. Like, sometimes I go to bed at 5.
That's like witching hour for most people, right? It's like, okay. I mean, like your girl is in bed sleeping at 9:30 p.m.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
That's how it works. So I'm up at 5. I get into the office. I write 10 ideas in my journal, however long that takes, right? 10 ideas. And then I'm working on my big creative projects.
So 10 ideas about anything, just anything that comes into
anything.
Oh, wow.
That has been a game changer too. I mean, that's like a whole, the artist's way. I don't know if you've read that book.
No.
But it's like, you journal 3 pages. It's kind of similar to this where it's like, you just get some 10 ideas out. It can take 5 minutes. It can take 20 minutes, but you just get something out on paper. And that's where some of like really good stuff happens. I mean, again, it's like, do some 10 ideas. It will change. That will change your biz. I've definitely taken ideas from that, which is super fun. But
yeah, because I'm imagining that the biggest challenge for a lot of people is to not run with every idea that they get. Like, it's just write it down and then just let's see it.
Just write it down.
Yeah.
No, like, I mean, you don't have to do anything about it. Like, you don't have to feel the pressure to like cross things off. This is not a checklist. You're just getting some stuff out. Yeah. And with the artist's way, they do it kind of similarly where it's like, you just like write 3 pages, whatever comes to mind. You could be writing, I don't know what to write in my pages right now. Right. But like just being able to like get stuff on paper, this is super helpful for like writers, podcasters. I would even argue like any content people, like things that like you are kind of the intellectual thought scientists. That's a good thing to do. So you're just getting your thoughts on paper and then you can really get to the good stuff. Yeah.
I love it.
And then I work undisturbed until 8:30 on my big creative projects. And then I let the dogs out. I walk around a little bit in the yard out here. I get a snack. I have some coffee. On Wednesdays and Thursdays, I meet with my industry friends in the field and we talk about how we can move the needle in our industry. We brainstorm our business, like, big ideas that like you just get everybody together. It's so beautiful. Like that has been lovely as well. And then at 11 o'clock every day, I get out of the office. Sometimes I take a hike. Sometimes I run. I play pickleball at the gym. Sometimes I go swimming. So that's the active rest part. After that activity, I eat a protein-rich lunch, a smoothie maybe. And then from 2 to 4, I'm back in the office for emails, consult calls, admin, etc. 4:30, I start my girl bye ritual. So I transfer over the tasks I need to do for the next day into their dedicated like time blocks. I shut down the computer, I write in my gratitude journal, and I literally shut the door. That's the schedule.
Okay, so for me, that sounds like, that's perfect on paper. But how are you able to implement it? Because that's where I would struggle, like to actually do it.
Yeah. I set alarms on my phone.
Oh, geez.
As weird as that is, like I have an alarm for 8:30, I have an alarm for 11, and I have an alarm for 2, and I have an alarm for 4. Because you have to get the trigger.
Yeah.
That's again, like what I coach on is like the habit stuff. If you don't get the trigger, then you won't do whatever it is that you're supposed to be doing. So I just set an annoying AF trigger, being an alarm, and it's like, oh, hello. And then you go.
But do you just drop everything and then you just follow the alarm? You don't?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. You just got to just like, and like it's
impressive.
It's really hard at first, right? It's hard at first, especially when you're first starting something new. But after you do it, so it takes like 21 days to form a habit, 90 days to form a lifestyle. So in that 90 days, like, we're just trying to get it right. After that 90 days, it's like, I can look up at the clock, be like, oh, it's 5 minutes till my alarm. And I've already been kind of like offboarding everything I needed
that makes sense.
For that alarm. Yeah. I mean, and again, like not every season of life is like that. With wedding elopement photographers specifically, like summer is a nut house and my sweet husband is home during the summer. So like things are different. That routine does change. I just have a new one, right? Like I just have something new, and it's okay to really settle into different seasons. We all have them. It's okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I just found like it's kind of like, the survivalists who like live out like in the wilderness with nothing but like their backpack and a tent, and they're like, you really have to live with nature. You can't fight nature. You just have to like live in it. I feel it's very similar with seasons of life. Like you can't fight it. just adapt to it and it will take care of you.
Yeah, because that makes a lot of sense, because I do think that a lot of people spend a lot of energy fighting that. So you just have to kind of adapt. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like just give yourself the grace to adapt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, I like it. Can we kind of summarize this into like what have we learned? We've learned about power schedules and how important it is to rest. I feel like that is a reminder. The biggest reminder is the importance of rest and the ways that you can rest. You have to find ways that kind of work for you. Mm-hmm. Can you walk us through the 3 different important stages that we, just as a reminder?
Yeah. So like there's the time for creative thinking and like deep thinking. That's the time where we're really going to be strategizing in our business. So this is like the artist time and the CEO time. Okay. So that's the first one. Second one is our active rest time. And that's that you're getting out of the office. You're like not thinking about work. You're giving your brain that time to be in that, that mode, that DMN that really just like makes it so you can see the future and you can daydream and you can just play. The third is all the other stuff, all the other admin stuff that, we have to do. It's not sexy, but like business owners have to do it.
Yeah. So you have to make time for all 3 and work with your own natural rhythm to create your own power schedule. Yeah.
Yep. Shoot me a DM. I'm happy to help. Yeah. Like if you have questions about this, like I'm happy to help because it is so different. I mean, and again, like I like to stack it with habits as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, especially I noticed this a bunch with like, say for instance, you love coffee, but you have a hard time going for a walk in the morning. Mm-hmm. You cannot have that coffee until we get our sexy asses on a walk.
Right.
Like we just kind of stack it where it's like we're able to build it and kind of have that lifestyle, right? When we're first starting it out. Yeah. So habit building is important there too.
Yeah. And if someone wants a template, you'll send me the link and I'll share that in the show notes, right?
Yeah. So what's really cool about this is I gave a few just examples of different, things you can do to fill it in, but also one that's just pretty like active rest in this block. And so people can like fill it in with whatever that looks like for them, and like creative work, whatever that looks like for them. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. This is really exciting.
Yes.
I have always had a batch schedule, like a batch working calendar, and that's worked really well for me.
Yeah.
But I do think I'm ready now to take it to another level and kind of add some of this power schedule stuff to it so that it can be even better and really work with me and my way of being.
Yes, work with you. Yes. I mean, I'd love to hear how it goes too. Like, give it a few weeks and just like see how you feel. Cause yeah, I mean, batching, it's like you're batching daily is kind of what the power schedule is, right? It's like, you're not like, oh, I saw an email come through, I'm going to do that right now. And then like, oh, I'm going to edit some photos, but like, oh, I saw another email. I mean, it's like, it's very intentional batching in a certain amount of time, right? It's kind of like the Pomodoro method.
Yeah, exactly.
Where you're like set for a certain amount of time, you do whatever it is you need to do, and it just gets done quicker.
Cool. Yeah, I love that. This has been great, and already I can't wait for our next talk. I'm sure we're going to find a topic that's equally fun like this one.
Well, I mean, this is fun for the systems people. Some of our like creative people are like, girl, like this is not something else maybe. But I think it's super fun. Yeah, it's so fun to talk to you as always.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
You just listened to an episode of Sustainable Photography. Please share this episode with a photographer you care about.